going on, guys? Kalamazi here. It is Saturday night, which means there's a couple days before patch 9.25 hits live servers, and there are a couple Warlock changes that were announced over the past few days. One addressing our Destruction 4-piece tier set, which is not too big of a change. It might change a few things here and there in Mythic Plus and raiding and probably PvP, which is, I would assume, where it's more targeted, where that change is a bit more relevant. And also there's a fix to the Kyrian, Rygelon, permanent Scouring Tithe duration bug exploit, whatever you want to call it. So I wanted to make a video tonight briefly, hopefully it's pretty short one, to talk about both those changes, what they mean, and just how, I guess, Destro lock, well, both the changes are to Destro lock. So how Destro lock looks heading into 9.25, what it means, and all that. Any weak orders or anything you see here, all free on my Twitch, link down below if you want to grab them, swing by, hang out, ask any questions anytime, feel free to do so. And also, before we get into the video, one big shout out to my patrons. Thank you for all support. Guys, a million times, really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon or interested, there should be a link somewhere up here, as well as down in the video description below. So with that being said, let's get right into it, starting off with the fix to the Kyrian Scouring Tithe, I guess what's been deemed as the Rygelon bug. Okay, so the Kyrian Warlock, Destruction Warlock, Rygelon, Permanent Scouring Tithe, bug, exploit issue, whatever you want to call it. These notes came out, I think, 5 days ago or so in the actual content update part of 9.25. Warlock fixed the issue that caused Scouring Tithe, the Kyrian ability to grant both the death and survival effects when used against certain enemies. So, now I want to clarify, the wording on this is also a bit odd, because both death and survival effects are still granted if I'm... So here, let's do this. So for example, if I put on passive, if I havoc this thing and put a Scouring Tithe over here, let's say, you know, this is gonna die in a second, whatever. I'll get the actual... Let's kill it now. I'll get the actual effect, right? It's dead. Well, sounds good. So I get the actual language and Detritus here. There's the big 45% crit buff. When this thing expires with Tithe, there's my cooldown right there. Comes back. So you can still, you'll still be able to get both parts of that. That's not what they're saying, but once again, the wording on it is typically very poor, and this is no exception. So the bug that they actually fixed was, if you haven't seen, if you haven't seen it, I recommend going and watching my Rygelon kill, or look up logs on Rygelon. You'll be able to find information on it, and the Rygelon POV that I had displays how to do it properly, well, semi-properly. But what I'm getting at is there was a issue on Rygelon with mobs like the orbs downstairs that, you know, when they expire, when they run out of health, they die. They don't actually die, but they essentially fade away. And you had those orbs active 3 times during the fight. It goes up, down, up, down, up, down, in one final up phase, right? Now, it wasn't just those orbs we found out. It ended up being, I believe there was some interaction with the relic, or like the CDR mob in Mythic Plus. I really didn't play Kyrian, Destro, and Plus. I've been in jailer prison for a month now. We're finally out, but I really didn't play it a whole lot there. But what the actual thing was is that when you went downstairs on a Rygelon, where this first started, if you havocked Rygelon and applied Scouring Tithe to one of the orbs, whenever one of the orbs ran out of health by the group soaking it, expired, and then essentially died, you would be able to cast Scouring Tithe permanently on Rygelon for the remainder of the fight with no cooldown. The ability would not go on cooldown, and every time you cast it, you would instantly get the 15% crit effect from the Unity Legendary, which is right here, the smaller part of it. But basically, this meant that you could permanently roll the 15% increased crit strike chance as Destro over the entire duration of the fight. And plus, you had multiple Quasars spawning upstairs. You just had to make sure you hit Rygelon, either with the Scouring Tithe by itself, or Havoc Rygelon. You could literally Scouring Tithe like 4 Quasars. You can just go Tithe, 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 because the bug would never put a cooldown on Scouring Tithe, as long as you always cast it on Rygelon, and as long as the Tithe never fell from Rygelon. If it did, the bug would reset. So that has been fixed on Rygelon and in Mythic Plus, from what I understand, and I think the Jailer had a bug with it too with mind controls, but it's probably just some spaghetti code kind of thing. So the issue was that there's a this is not sorted by Warlock. These are the mythic rankings from Rygelon. This is all classes. 28,000 DPS being number 1. This guy has rank 1 and 2 logs. Don't know how you do that. It's pretty cool. So basically, I've seen some complaints saying, even in chat on stream, that, oh, Blizzard doesn't want anybody to have any fun, this and that. It's fixed. It shouldn't be fixed. It's whatever. The expansion's over. keep in mind, the top log was 28,000 DPS. We're going to scroll and find the highest log that's not a Destro log. And once again, keep in mind, this is not a sort by Destro lock or even Warlock. This is all classes. So we have to go to page 3. I think this is page 4. Let's go again. There's not a single class in the top 500. Keep going. 500. Let's see. This is 600. We can keep going. And once again, keep in mind the top DPS was 28,000 by a Destro lock. The highest non-Destro lock parse on this fight for any spec is a Frost DK at World 727. So the second highest rank in the world, the highest rank for Frost DK, for DK of any spec, is the 727th highest parse on Rygelon. And it is also 20,000 DPS. It is 7,500 DPS behind the top Destro parse. If you go past this, I think it's like another page and a half or so till you find another parse. Let's see. That was 25. Yeah, there's a Fire Mage here at 20,000. So it's pretty wild. You could roll, I think, a 40-ish, 45% uptime on the 45% crit buff when you're playing the Legendary and playing Kyrian on the fight, which means your Chaos Bolts, like a truck, the actual damage that Chaos Bolt does is increased by your crit chance, and the effects actually stack. So you could just permanently roll the 15% buff, and whenever you had Quasar spawning, you'd have the 45% buff from them dying, the death effect of Scouring Tithe, and you'd also have the 15% buff stacking with it. So you were rocking anywhere from a 15% to 60% just raw crit strike increase pretty much for the entire duration of the fight, or at least good parts of it where there's relevant damage, right? If you gave a Warlock power infusion at that point, they just cranked. They utterly destroyed. And that right there is why Destro was so good on Rygelon and in other spots. I can kill this mob here and watch my crit chance. So we have 45. Oh, this thing died too. We'd have 60. And you can see my crit right now is sitting at what? 69% crit. It's pretty wild. And that's not even including the extra 15%. It'd be what? 84%? 84% crit chance, not including Ruby uptime, not including Changelings. There's a reason you would feature Warlock's PI in those fights, because they would carry the raw DPS. So that bug should be fixed. The big question is, what specs will be best on Rygelon coming Tuesday after the nerfs? There's a good chance that Kyrian Destro is still the best spec, because if you sort by actual, if you go into the actual raid here and look at raw rankings, Kyrian Destro is being played. There was no bug on Vigilant Guardian. This is not a Warlock sort, right? Vigilant Guardian is still Kyrian Destro because mobs are dying, where you can get both sides of the Scouring Tithe effect, both the reset and the shards, both crit effects, right? And you have big AoE. Mobs dying when your Havoc's off cooldown, it's back on cooldown. You're Havocing a Scouring Tithe. The Sausage, once again, this is not like a Warlock sort. The top 9 are all Destro, all Kyrian, because you have the actual orb spawning on this fight in quick succession, where you can Havoc them, get both sides of Scouring Tithe, launch massive bolts, and there you go. But there's a difference. We talked about this in old videos too. If it's a fight where you can get Scouring Tithe value, mobs dying, basically when your Havoc comes off cooldown, Kyrian's a good choice. Vigilant Guardian, the Sausage. Zymox, not really. You're playing a lot of Night Fae here because there's not enough mob spawning frequently enough outside of the intermission, right? Pantheon, same case. It's Night Fae. There's permanent mobs, being 2 bosses or 4 bosses, and at times you have the Ritualist, but they're not active frequently enough to get Kyrian Scouring Tithe value. Skolex, same thing. There's some Necrolord in here, I think, somewhere. You're crazy, I don't know. Halandris, same thing. Lihuvim, same thing. There are ads, but they're not spawning frequently enough. Anduin, there was some Kyrian, but overall, Night Fae's taken back over because of Kyrian. Makes sense. Lord to Dread, Night Fae. Rygelon, the Wall of Kyrian. But unlike all the other fights, Rygelon still has the Quasar spawning in Phase 1. And even in Phase 2, you can get some cleave on the downstairs orbs, right? Now, the thing is, on Rygelon, all you do is Havoc the boss and Scouring Tithe an orb. You can't really Havoc them down with bolts because you're going to blow the orb up too early, right? But either way, Kyrian could still very well be the best spec on this fight for Warlock, but the actual difference between Kyrian Destro and Demo, which was deemed the best spec during World First Prog and things, let's sort by this. Let's go Rygelon here. The actual difference, let's go Destro, is not going to be 28,000 versus 18,000. It's probably going to be pretty close to each other. I'm going to play Demo. I prefer Demo on the fight. More fun, more exciting. Kyrian, the fight feels gross. But either way, Tuesday, we will find out. With that being said, let's talk about the changes to the Destro 2-piece, 4-piece, and what it means in PvE. Alrighty, so the second change, there's a couple of them here actually, but these are the more recent upcoming class tuning notes they put out. There's no buffs to Warlock. Unfortunately, AF is still terrible. There's no like nerfs to anything really. I don't consider this an actual nerf. So for Destro right here, Ritual of Ruin, the 2-piece bonus now lasts 30 seconds. So the wording on this, Blizzard is very odd with their wording and sort of cryptic at times. So basically, Ritual of Ruin is not the actual like stacking effect. Well, okay, it sort of is. So the actual effect that stacks is called Impending Ruin. Every 10 shards you get a free instant cast Chaos Bolt or a Rain of Fire, right? But that is not Ritual of Ruin. So technically, you know, Ritual is like the free Chaos Bolt or the free Rain of Fire. So it is technically still the 2-piece, but it sort of is like also the 4-piece. The wording is a bit misleading at times, even though it is technically correct. So once again, Impending Ruin. When we get our 10 stack here though, that is Ritual of Ruin. Your next Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire is instant cast. Now, currently there is no duration on this. I don't do a whole lot of PvP. I don't do really any arenas. I think it's boring, but I've heard and seen, to be fair, that Destro Lock is sort of tearing up arenas, and I know a lot of that, from what I've heard, is due to being able to bank Ritual of Ruin procs and just go with big damage. Now they're adding a 30-second duration to that, which means, as far as PvP is concerned, you can't hold that proc forever and just get insane damage, your Infernal, your Dark Soul, and blast everything into the ground. Now, as far as PvE is concerned, this doesn't change a crazy amount. There's going to be certain times in Mythic Plus, for example, where you stack your big Ritual of Ruin effect, your instant cast for Rain of Fire, for your free Infernal, heading into a new trash pack. Now, if that trash pack if the travel time between the trash pack takes more than half a minute, you probably don't want to bank that proc. But barring it being a DOS and running from the boss to the next wing or whatever, it shouldn't be as impactful. But there are going to be times you're going to want to think, all right, is there enough downtime between this pack where I want to get to 9 stacks or 8, whatever, and not proc my Ritual of Ruin, Chaos Bolt, or Rain of Fire. The Blasphemy no longer stuns in PvP. That's no big deal. So the other thing with this change, let me clear this effect out here, is that, so when it's come to raiding and things, if you watch a lot of my Destro kills, Anduin, Lord's Dread, Rygelon, you'll notice that before the boss is pulled, we have an instant cast Chaos Bolt ready to go. And that is because you can stack the bonus essentially to 12. You'll get a 2-stack, which will clear when the boss is pulled, but you can stack the bonus to get a free Chaos Bolt for the boss is pulled. I will also tell you that at times shards regen fast, at times they don't. If it's like a longer delayed regen here, it's because you got a Soul Conduit proc, and it delays the refund a bit. But you can see right now, I'm at 9 stacks, right? So let's say, for example, we're getting ready to pull Anduin or whatever boss you're playing Destro on, right? I can stack this 12 stacks. When I hit this is going to start counting down from 30, 29, 28. Now, for the most part, like I said, this really shouldn't make a huge difference. You just tell your tank, hey, you know, your Raidly, whatever, who's ever pulling the boss, hey, I have about 20 seconds before my proc expires. And for the most part, let's be honest, they're waiting on us to stack it anyways before they pull the boss. They're always asking if the Warlocks are ready, because we gotta drop a gate and Hellstones and stack our 4-piece and do this and that and everything else, and eat and flask and pot and rune every pull. But that's one thing to keep in mind, is that will be a bit of something you might want to watch, depending if you've been used to doing this in Mythic Prog and not really having any issues. That might change a little bit. But as long as you pull the boss before the proc expires, you can still zoom and have the same double 4-piece proc effect with Madness, and you're just zooming, right? So as long as you keep that in mind, as far as like Anduin and other bosses are concerned, you really shouldn't have a huge issue with it. Mythic Plus might change a little bit, but overall, it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. Just be aware of it. I'll probably up it this week warrior here to add a duration to like the effect, so you can track it a bit better. Once again, week warriors on my Twitch, link down below. But yeah, for the most part, as long as you're aware of that, it really shouldn't change a whole lot. It's not an actual like nerf to the 4-piece, as long as, you know, the majority of the time. In PvP, yeah, it might hurt a little bit, but I don't really do a whole lot of PvP. So TLDR, Destro 4-piece, whatever, however you want to word it. Ritual of Ruin. not actually as big of a deal as some are making it out to be. Oh yeah, and just to echo what I'm saying, the dev notes are actually referring to this and not this. With these changes, we set out to address the strategy of disengaging from the fight, except in a rare moment where the Warlock can set up huge bursts through the set bonus. Disengaging from the fight, I think, more so refers to PvP. There have been certain times in PvE where I've held the 4-piece proc, like on Anduin going downstairs, or on Anduin in the Kingsmorn phase. But once again, I'm not holding it for half a minute, right? You can stack a whole 10 stack again before that window closes, right? At the same time, we're trying to give adequate time for the Warlocks to respond to Ritual of Ruin proc with a 30-second duration, which once again, I think is more than fine. And oh yeah, Demonology got a bit of a healing reduction increase on Legion Strike. So yeah, not too bad. But like I said, not that big of a change. We really shouldn't feel it a whole lot in PvE. PvP, maybe, but PvE shouldn't be that bad. So yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching, guys. Not a whole lot of class changes going into 9.5 for Warlock, but there's not really a whole lot of class changes in general. Windwalker got buffed a crazy amount. That's going to be a wild ride. They're probably going to be insane again in single target and in AoE, but you know, such is the life of a Windwalker monk. The bugs, I guess the Kyrian, once again, Rygelon bug, whatever you want to call it, fix, probably isn't going to change a lot for, I would say, the majority of the player base. If you're using it in Plus, I mean, that's what it is. Kyrian's probably still pretty good there. Probably still pretty good on Rygelon. And the actual 2-piece change, once again, I don't think it's a huge deal when it comes to PvE, as long as you're aware of it. You might have to like stack your bonus a bit later in the bosses being pulled. You're pre-stacking your 4-piece, and just be aware of your stacks in Mythic Plus when you're heading from one pack to the next if you're traveling super far, like in a DOS or you're doing a big skip with Will or something along those lines. But for the most part, not massive changes, which is probably a good thing because Destro's still pretty strong. So I do expect some more class tuning in Season 4, which I would guess is probably hitting in like a month or two, just based on, I would assume, the time they want to get for Cutting Edge and things like that. They have begun some class tuning on PTR. I believe they buffed Arcane Mage, so we'll see. Fingers crossed for Af to get buffed, and maybe Destro and Demo make it out okay. But we'll see. So any weak orders or add-ons you saw in this video you'd like to acquire, once again, link down below to Twitch, where they're all indeed available for free. And one big shout out again to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support, guys. Really appreciate it. If you'd like to support on Patreon, there should be a link up here, as well as down in the video description below. And while you're down there, hit the like and sub buttons. It helps out a ton. And also, any questions or comments, drop them down below. I'll be sure to get back to you. Yeah, that sure looks pretty good heading into 9.25. No changes to Demo. Demo's still good. And yeah, we're zooming. So, thanks for watching, dudes, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.